Okay, let's talk about something completely different. Porn. Now, I did a hot tub stream, like, a couple days ago, and, you know, honestly, we should probably get back to that. We should probably get back to the hot tub aesthetic, right? Like, would that be an improvement? Should we just do... I don't think we'll do this whole thing in the hot tub. As funny as that would be, I'm of the opinion that if I were to turn this into a hot tub stream, that would completely invalidate everything, that's a cookie, that I could possibly say here. Well, shit. I guess now we're in the hot tub. Okay. Let's go ahead and play the video, because we're going to talk about hot tub streams. And porn, apparently. Yay.
Hi, my name's
Hi.
Vanessa.
Hi, Vanessa.
I'm a photographer, an artist, and a sewist from Canada. And today I'm going to talk about a few things, starting with the news over at Twitch. For the past few months, hot tub streams have taken over Twitch, with many of the platform's biggest stars partaking and seeing substantial growth. However, this success has not come without controversy, as many view the broadcast as being too sexual for Twitch and wish to see the content removed from the site.
Well, we are in a hot tub. This is very sexual, I assure you.
This is just another in a long line of examples of women objectifying themselves for their own financial benefit. And it...
Okay, so let me go and throw this out right now. Sex work is work. If you can use your body for labor in a fast food joint, you can use your body for labor in literally any other way, so long as it involves consenting people. That's all it takes. Consent. Just have consent. But okay. Let's go ahead and just see what the rest of the point is.
It's to the detriment of other women, all the time. Specifically, other Twitch streamers who are female and happen to not want to do a hot tub stream are now getting bombarded with comments and harassment asking them to strip down.
So wait, hold on. It's the fault of the women who are doing hot tub streams that is causing other women to get harassment? No. Don't even engage in this dumbass take, okay? When there is a person harassing a woman, it is not some previous woman's fault that a current woman is being harassed. It is the harasser's fault. Period. There were harassers asking people to strip down, asking people to take off their bras, asking people to do all kinds of lewd and honestly really exploitative shit on Twitch before hot tub streams. If a creep is going to be a creep, they're going to be a creep regardless of what you're wearing and regardless of what the last streamer they watched was wearing.
Even though that's not something they ever wanted to do. There are plenty of celebrities and social media influencers who have exploited their sexuality or hypersexualized themselves and made themselves into a sex object just for men to consume.
Yeah, there are also women who consume that. Just throwing that out there. Also, again, sex work is work. Like, this includes modeling. This includes using your body for lewd photos. Like, all this stuff, if you don't want to partake in it, completely understandable. The industry on the whole is very, very problematic. But if you have the opportunity to pull yourself out of poverty, and this is an option that you have, and you can consent to the option without, you know, being forced to do something, I'm not going to sit back and tell somebody who's in the working class that, nah, they just have to suffer. I'm not going to do that.
Even though they have tons of little girls singing their lyrics, even though they have tons of little girls watching their music videos.
Okay, cool. So this is basically going to be about fucking WAP. Alright, so I'm just going to say this right now. If you're going to get angry at artists for producing music, and you have issue with the message that's in that music, I don't think that's honestly a great argument as to why that music shouldn't exist. I don't agree with the message in half the country music that exists. But I'm not going to argue that all country music should be wiped off the face of the planet. And I'm not going to argue that those artists shouldn't have had the ability or opportunity to sing the lyrics that they did.
And imitating them and mimicking them, they don't see themselves as role models. I've picked just a few quotes from the Billie Eilish Vogue UK interview, just to highlight some of the hypocrisy that she seems to be showing, and the lack of awareness that is.
Okay, so let's go ahead and read the actual stuff there. She's, fuck me up, everybody's like, you can't make a wife out of a hoe, and it's like, you're attracted to that person, though. You created that person. If those are the terms, Eilish is out. Suddenly you're a hypocrite if you want to show your skin, and you're easy if you're a slut and a whore. If I am, then I'm proud. Me and all the girls are hoes, and fuck it, you know? Let's turn it around and be empowered in that. Show your body, showing your skin, or not. Should not take any respect away from you. How is that? Wait, where's the hypocrisy?
Is evident in her opinions on empowerment. A teenage pop star bearing all to telegraph her maturity is nothing new. Are we surprised that Billie Eilish did this? No. It's basically the template at this point. Because every single time, these young stars are groomed and built up to be these sexual objects by the time that it's legally allowed.
Okay, so there's a difference here, though. You're using Billie Eilish as an argument against grooming. And I agree, grooming is a problem. Grooming people to sexualize themselves later in life when they otherwise wouldn't is not good. But if you are to use that as a point against anyone sexualizing themselves, that's a problem. Because an adult sexualizing themselves in their own individual life does not suddenly make a child get groomed.
According to the Chicago Alliance Against Sexual Exploitation, there are numerous misconceptions about stripping, and almost all of these misconceptions are perpetuated with social media. In addition to not being a get-rich-quick scheme, women are fed the lie that stripping is a safe job, and that bouncers and security will protect them.
I generally don't hear that stripping is a safe job. Like, I don't hear that on TikTok. I don't hear that on YouTube. I hear stories of people who get harassed. I hear stories of people who definitely did not feel safe doing what they did, but there are several jobs where that's the case. If your argument is going to be against unsafe jobs, then we can go ahead and end all construction jobs. We can end jobs in the military. We can end jobs in law enforcement and the fire department. If danger is the problem, then let's eliminate dangerous jobs, I guess.
Women in strip clubs often face physical, verbal, and sexual abuse. Research has shown that all strippers in the US have faced either sexual abuse or prostitution proposals.
Yes, because they are working in an industry where those practices are prevalent. Does it make those things good? No. If somebody's doing a prostitution proposal for you and you do not want that, that's not a thing you want in your life, that is bad. I don't want to hear the argument where somebody goes, well, they chose that line of work, they knew what they were getting into. No. They consented to strip, they consented to show their body, they did not consent to harassment, they did not consent to coercion, they consented to stripping. They consented to showing their body up until the point where they were no longer comfortable. They did not consent to going past that point. But again, arguments against the harassment that happens, which is bad, is not an argument against participation from an individual in any one of those jobs, if that job helps them pay the bills, helps them survive.
And that 75% have dealt with stalking. Stripping is not a secure job. You might make $500 in as little as 4 hours, or you could dance all night and make $10.
Yes, and these are also problems that are prevalent in the service industry. This exact argument functions against the service industry. Now, the service industry as it works right now in the United States for restaurants is definitely fucked up, is definitely not good. I agree with that. But my point is, this kind of argument, if you were to hold it and you were to try to utilize it to its greatest extent, then all you would do is come to the conclusion that strippers should at least be paid a minimum or living wage first, and then tips should be given on top of it, which would be the correct reform for the service industry as well. But if you're not going to make that argument, and you're just going to say nuke the entire industry, then, again, sex work is work. All labor is exploiting your body for someone else's profit. If you want to make an argument that nobody should exploit their bodies for someone else's profit, then we could agree on that. But I don't think that's her argument.
Add in the fact that strippers have to pay to keep up glamorous image.
Again, that is an argument against the service industry as well. Because if you are in the service industry, especially if you are female, you will generally have to put on makeup in order to get tips. People who I've dated over the course of my life who have worked in service have had to spend a decent chunk of money on makeup to keep up their appearances, because on nights where they did not use makeup, they did not get tips. Now, there's certainly a conversation to be had about how screwed up that is, but again, this is not a unique problem.
Hair extensions, blowouts, lingerie, shoes, and makeup, as well as pay fees to the club they work in to even get the opportunity to dance.
So, I can point out another industry where this happens. If you were to use that as an argument, then you're going to have to argue against the existence of flea markets, where you have to rent out stalls.
A girl may well come out negative. Clubs may also demand a commission on tips of up to 20%.
I'll also point out, though, that if somebody would come up negative, I don't agree with that. That's an issue that also exists in the service industry. I'm not trying to pull up that every industry potentially has these issues as a gotcha. I'm merely pointing out that these issues exist and are not unique here. And if you're going to have issue with them here, then you probably need to go ahead and make sure that you're taking care of them in other places as well.
And may fine the dancers for breaking arbitrary rules, such as wearing the wrong shoes or failing to please a patron.
And again, those are issues that exist in the restaurant service industry. Those exact things.
Stripping is not empowering.
Actually, stripping can be either degrading or empowering. It depends on who you are. It depends on what you make of it. And it also depends on what the society around you views it as first. Anything like this can be either something that empowers you, or something that makes you have issues going forward. It can either be degrading or empowering. If you do not want to strip, and you do not want to flaunt your body, then stripping is degrading. But if you want to flaunt your body, and you are proud of it, and you want to make money off of something that you might have worked hard for, then it can be empowering. It depends on who you ask.
Teaches women that their only value is in their bodies, and that a price can be placed on their intimacy. A woman's self-esteem can plummet when men won't pay for her. And stripping has been shown to make women fearful and distrusting of men.
And again, that is a problem that exists in the service industry too. I can't count the amount of times where I have had to have an issue where an ex of mine would complain that somebody else looked incredibly hot at work, and as a result, they were able to generate a lot of tips while they were not able to get as many tips, and it made them very self-conscious. This is an issue that exists in practically any tip-only field. This is an argument against tip-only fields in general, and I agree we should remove tip-only fields, and we should have minimum wages in places like this. But again, that is not an argument against stripping.
I mean, what doesn't? Women are taught that their bodies are not enough, and often seek plastic surgery to perfect their appearances.
That is something that happens to men as well. Not to the same amount, mind you. Not yet. Give it time, I guess. Depending on how toxic the manosphere gets. I'm kidding, it's already incredibly toxic. That's an issue with society in general. That's not an issue with stripping. That's not an issue with that particular line of work. That is an issue that our society perpetuates as it is. And I agree with you. Getting to arguing that people need to get plastic surgery to perfect their bodies is a problem. But might I offer people who actually generally have to get plastic surgery in order to correct their bodies, trans people, for instance, who might get top or bottom surgery, who literally have to fight their dysphoria with these practices. You're having to work almost from axioms that these things are inherently bad on their own. I don't know if that works very well.
Eating disorders are prevalent, and the women who cannot afford surgery try to be more suggestive to compensate for their physical faults.
And again, this is an issue that happens with trans people as well, where if they can't afford HRT or surgery, they try to find other ways of either hypermasculating or hyperfeminizing themselves. That's just a thing that happens. It's a problem with society that puts those things on people. That doesn't automatically mean that that's an issue with an industry.
We've all seen the rise of TikTokers and YouTubers and influencers who are creating OnlyFans accounts. The truth about OnlyFans is that it's a multi-level marketing scheme, not unlike any other pyramid scheme that you've heard of. Recruiters earn 5% of the recruitee's first yearly earnings. Rags to riches advertising targets young women facing high university fees. Pressure to provide novelty. Customer base only interested in the new, either new women or new sex acts. Control of your own hours. Customers will share your content for free so that you cannot profit perpetually from limited content. Female empowerment. Recruiters, current users, will promote it as empowering, but the novelty pipeline will demand increasing degradation.
So, wait, hold on. Most of those weren't points arguing that OnlyFans is an MLM. It might be that OnlyFans is a multi-level marketing scheme. I'm not 100% certain. Maybe some of my friends who actually do work on OnlyFans can clarify this for me, if helpful. But honestly, the argument that because you're having to put forth new and interesting things makes it an MLM, that as that one part is, that means that YouTube's an MLM. YouTube is effectively a multi-level marketing scheme. What other stuff did you have in here? Recruiters earn 5% of the recruitee's first year earnings. Okay, that is definitely an aspect of an MLM. I agree with that. But the pressure to provide novelty, that's not an aspect of an MLM exclusively. That's an aspect that's just part of capitalism. Female empowerment. Recruiters will promote it as empowering. Again, that's not just an MLM thing. That's just the nature of the platform. The nature of the societal argument between saying that showing your body and flaunting your body is empowering versus degrading. The rags to riches advertising. Again, this is something prevalent on Twitch, on YouTube, on anything. This targets anyone who thinks that they can get rich on anything. MLMs are especially responsible for shit like this, but having this does not automatically make something an MLM. The control of your own hours. Again, this is not something that makes a multi-level marketing scheme. This is something that exists on YouTube, on Twitch, on any entertainment platform. And then number 6, most lose money. The OnlyFans market is already glutted. So on and so forth. Only those who got in at the beginning can expect to see substantial profit from recruitment. Well, most people who get on OnlyFans don't expect to see substantial profit from recruitment. Most people on OnlyFans expect to see profit from their OnlyFans. Based on this type of conversation, based on this, things like League of Legends and World of Warcraft are multi-level marketing schemes because they have a player recruitment function. While there are things in here that most certainly can point to a multi-level marketing scheme, these 6 points together do not make an MLM. And they certainly don't make OnlyFans an MLM. Like, if you want to argue that OnlyFans has a manipulative system, sure. So does YouTube, so does Twitch. This is an aspect of capitalism that we have to either take away or adapt to. As a socialist, I would prefer to take it away. But as a socialist who lives in reality, I've chosen to adapt for the time being.
Promoted as empowering, but the novelty pipeline will demand increasing degradation.
Fox of Faith, thank you very much for redeeming an OWO. I'm sorry that you're having to pay channel points so that I can increasingly degrade myself. I hear that it's bad.
The OnlyFans market is already glutted, and only those who got in at the beginning can expect to see substantial profit.
I understand you're reading. Please look at the camera. Oh no, you're about to look at the camera. That is certainly a face. Is that the thumbnail face? That's the thumbnail face. We got it, guys. We got it in one. That's the face for the thumbnail. Continue.
From recruitment. OnlyFans, founded in 2016 and based in Britain, has boomed in popularity during the pandemic. As of December, it had more than 90 million users and more than 1 million content creators, up from 120,000 in 2019. With millions of Americans unemployed, people are turning to OnlyFans in an attempt to provide for themselves and their families. The pandemic has taken a particularly devastating toll on women and mothers, wiping out parts of the economy where women dominate: retail businesses, restaurants, and healthcare. A lot of people are migrating to OnlyFans out of desperation. Here's some screenshots from several universities who are promoting sex work, aka prostituting on OnlyFans, to their students as a viable side job to work while they're going through school. Ryerson University is in Toronto.
Again, sex work is work. All work as it currently exists in a capitalistic system is exploiting your body for labor in order to generate profit for someone else. That's a problem. Yes. You want to have this problem? Have it everywhere. All you would be doing by arguing against things like OnlyFans is you would be taking away jobs from people who are using OnlyFans as an income stream. I want you to consider, for instance, somebody who's disabled. Okay? Somebody who's disabled and cannot get a job elsewhere and is currently fighting for disability. Because in America, getting disability is not an easy thing. It's a constant battle. So let's say you've got several years ahead of you of trying to fight for disability, and you're trying to find a way to survive during this time. And OnlyFans is an option. You can do most of your stuff lying down, you can just show your body off, and as long as that's something that you find to be empowering, as long as that's something that you find to be consensual, then what is the issue with somebody engaging in those practices? Especially if they're doing it as a means of making sure that their family is able to stay safe and stay alive. If you want to say, oh, all OnlyFans work is prostitution, then by that definition, any self-owned modeling work is also prostitution. We can take the definition further into absurdity and argue that all labor under capitalism is now prostitution. This is an absurd statement. But continue. You're starting to get very emotional about this, and I'm curious as to why this is affecting you so.
AKA one of the most expensive cities to live in the entire country. So, because they can't afford to pay their rent or they can't afford to feed themselves and go to Ryerson, they should just sell their bodies online. Unbelievable.
No. And again, merely having a seminar at your college or your university where somebody says you can do this doesn't mean the university is fully and wholly endorsing every message that's being said there. If that was the case, then every university that's ever hosted Ben Shapiro for a debate agrees wholeheartedly with all the bullshit things that he says and believes. Now that's an absurd statement, because, of course, it is. But if you and I can agree that the world we currently live in is not suited for the people living in it, it's been created in a way that people who generate profit get more out of the deal than people who actually work for that profit. If we can agree with that, then maybe instead of trying to take away the tools that people have learned to adapt with to survive in this busted world, maybe we should focus on fixing the busted world. I could do this exact same kind of argument towards you. Okay? Here, let's engage in the argument for a second. I believe that people should work a living wage, and jobs that cannot offer a living wage should be taken out of business completely. Okay? So, let's say that the local McDonald's, which employs maybe 15, or not 15 people, 15 people for a shift, maybe, probably about 20 or 30. That's what my McDonald's employed when I was working there. It was about between 20 and 30. 20, not great. 30, we could cover all of our shifts decently okay. So these 30 people are now going to hear you tell them, effectively, or me in this case, that their job is exploiting them for labor, and their job is giving them a raw deal, and they are being taken advantage of, and they shouldn't be taken advantage of, especially not for pitiable wages. And we can run this song and dance with the exploitation game, which we can agree is bad, and I come to the conclusion that I need to get rid of the McDonald's. Because, well, it's exploiting their people. They're having to sell their bodies for wages, and isn't that disgusting? You and I agree it is. But all that I've done in this scenario is I've taken away the means by which people can collect the money required to save their own families and save their own lives. So now let's dial this exact same scenario back to you. Let's say that somebody is an OnlyFans content creator and they're making about $40,000 a year. Not a stupendous wage, but certainly more than I'm making. Now, let's say this person is listening to you, watching your videos, and they hear how horrible the industry is and all that other fun stuff, and they might even agree with you. So eventually they stop OnlyFans and they start looking for other work, and they find themselves in one of these minimum wage jobs. And they're unable to afford their basic amenities the way that they used to be able to, because now they're working jobs that do not offer living wages. You've effectively just made their lives worse. This isn't better. And again, disabled people who might not have had the ability to engage in the workforce, the physical labor workforce, but find another way to sell their body for labor the same way you do in every other fucking job before somebody comes into me with the prostitution claims. You're making a world where this person who might not have been able to get a job and is still fighting for some way to survive is now unable to do so. They are unable to survive. They are unable to function. But it's okay, because ideologically, the world has aligned closer with what you think is right.
Outlets like the New York Times says it has put X-rated entertainment in the hands of its entertainers. But
okay, this is a good thing, though. You want to know why? Because the porn industry is very exploitative. The porn industry is very problematic. It catches people in very vulnerable stages of life. And it locks people into doing things that they might not want to do. Not to mention the issues with people who have been groomed to end up acting in porn. Issues that you have problems with. Places like OnlyFans, which allow people to have control over their own content, allow people to take these things into their own hands, prevents them from having to deal with a middleman, prevents them from having to deal with an exploitative manager. I have a couple friends who actually have worked in the porn industry at various points in their life. If you want some stories, I can probably get some from them if they consent.
based on the experiences of women who use OnlyFans, it's clear that the service is far from safe. Many of the women are paid to reenact the sexual fantasies of male subscribers and are told by private message exactly what they are expecting from each post. There are some real weirdos out there. Yeah, speaking of weirdos, let's talk about Elijah. This woman named Kate on Twitter, top 0.41% of OnlyFans, is trying to convince us that women can consent to getting bludgeoned in the face in the name of creating content to facilitate male masturbation.
So wait, hold on. Have you ever heard of BDSM? I'm dead fucking serious. Let me run your argument through the BDSM community for a second, okay? Without knowing all the details here, I'm watching this video largely for the first time, but without knowing all the details, so I may get something wrong, and if I do get something wrong, please in the comment section, let me know that I've gotten something wrong, okay? Can a person in a BDSM relationship who is the sub consent to being bruised for their dom's pleasure? This might even be for their pleasure, too. Can this happen? Yes. Does this happen all the time? Yes. I've literally fucking attended a swingers party at a dom's house where he was offering fucking whipping lessons in the top floor. I understand that this looks bad, but if you're in the BDSM community, you could look at this and immediately go, oh, I know what's going on here. I get it. But maybe that's just me. Maybe we need to watch the rest of the video.
Whilst the money pours in from OnlyFans, and young, broke, and often vulnerable women are drawn to this sanitized version of prostitution, men that subscribe have found yet another platform to treat women as little more than their own personalized sex toy.
Okay. And there are some women who want to be treated like a sex toy? Now, granted, it's definitely not all women, and there is certainly something to be said about feeling like a sack of meat. Been in relationships before where I was treated like a sack of meat, and it made me feel like utter garbage. I'm not the type of person that could function in one of these industries, but there are people who can. And for the people who can, this can be a very lucrative option for them. And again, like I said, showing off your bruises is not an uncommon thing in BDSM circles.
The reason it's a problem that porn is so heavily saturated in our culture is that in order for men to be able to feel satisfied, they have to seek out more and more extreme things because they've been desensitized to just normal sexual imagery.
This is an argument that's been made thousands of times. And outside of issues of porn addiction, it largely doesn't hold any merit. I'm not going to go into the kinds of porn that I watch. I'm not going to go into the kinds of things that I've seen or participated in. But by this argument, I should be a type of person who is not able to gratify myself with plain old missionary sex. And yet I can. Merely consuming extreme content, or just pornographic content in general, does not automatically mean that you cannot get off to standard run-of-the-mill sex. By and large, your issue might be porn addiction. And I know that desensitization comes with porn addiction. But if we're going to have a conversation about addiction, then we need to talk about video games, media, religion, literally anything that one can form an addiction to with psychological withdrawals when they stop engaging in it. All you're doing is taking one aspect of society and trying to frame a good portion of society's problems around that single issue. This is the type of stuff that IDPOL finds itself doing when they frame everything around race, instead of pointing out that race is an important part of class, and pointing out that there are issues of the working class that are compounded by race, yes, but the issue isn't all race. This is a problem that happens with a lot of people that get an ideological bent. If you think that all the world's problems stem from a single source, which I don't think is necessarily the case here, but bear with me, you tend to frame things in a way where that thing is the issue. So we're talking about pornography. From what I've read, it's porn addiction that causes these issues. It's porn addiction that leads to desensitization. Merely consuming porn, merely having porn available, does not suddenly mean that men on the whole are desensitized to sex and need more and more extreme things from their partner. But even in the world where they needed more extreme things from their partner, again, I'd like to point you to the BDSM community. Sexual desires getting more extreme is perfectly fucking normal. It happens all the time. And I mean, if you want to have a problem with BDSM, then let's have a conversation about that, I guess.
Their brains become muddled with these sick fantasies, and it starts to bleed over into how they start to treat the women in their real lives.
Sick fantasies bad, spank me daddy wrong.
Take, for example, this really brave girl from TikTok.
Are you gonna sit here and play stupid with me?
What with the...
I can see everything that you do on here.
I've never been anywhere.
I can see everything that you do on here.
When I go down to supply.
and I never want to see you. Rape, father-daughter rape, father fucks daughter in sleep.
Well, that's just...
How am I supposed to feel about that?
Emma,
How am I supposed to feel about that? When I lived with you alone for 7 months, and I woke up in bed with you, sleeping with me. Never contact me again. Ever. You're done. Goodbye.
Now I know why
I don't fully understand what's going on in this. Maybe it'll be contextualized.
he hasn't had a girlfriend is because he was looking for young girls, not a grown woman. And I live with my boyfriend now. I am out. It's been about 5 months since I've lived with him. But yeah, I'm just completely done. I would wake up multiple times during the year last year with him sleeping in bed with me, with him just, he would make creepy comments. He was doing hard drugs. He would give me sleeping pills to help me sleep at night, which put you in a very deep sleep where I would not have woken up out of it if anything was happening. I didn't have a door. I had a curtain that just separated our rooms, so he could walk in whenever he wanted and I would never know. It is very alarming. If you're looking up father-daughter rape videos over and over and over again for days, that is very scary, and it should not be normalized, and you should not be normalizing it.
And the update is?
Okay, so before she gets into her next point, based on the context here, we seem to have somebody who went through real sexual trauma with potentially a predator. Everybody who engages in kink culture is not a goddamn predator. Having sexual kinks does not automatically make you a predator. What makes you a predator is predatory behavior. This woman seems to have experienced such predatory behavior. And what seems to have happened in the comments that were shown there were people using arguments like the one that I'm pointing out here to argue that the victim did not actually deal with problems that were as magnified as the victim thought they were, or even engaging in victim blaming. But let me go and point out right now, knowing that a kink happens does not mean that someone necessarily consents to that kink being engaged in the bedroom. I can understand, especially as somebody who's got an affiliate link for DDLG Playground, of all things. I am wholly understanding of people who engage in that kink. That does not excuse people who end up in dangerous situations from hurting others in any way, shape, or form. But let's go ahead and hear the update.
She has gone to the police and reported him for CP, and they've taken the iPad, so hopefully there is an investigation.
Hold on, let's see. Oh my god, can you talk about the police do the teen search part? Isn't that CP? Okay, so if he's searching for teenagers online to be his girlfriend, or to be his sex partner, because he doesn't want to have sex with someone who is of age, he wants to have sex with people who are underage, that is yikesy behavior, that is shitty. Again, this is a individual who has dealt with predatory behavior, and that should not be minimized in any way, shape, or form. However, this person should not be used as a lightning rod to galvanize all the conservatives effectively into arguing that people who are kinky are necessarily predators.
For CP, and they've taken the iPad, so hopefully there is an investigation and he goes to prison and rots. Gave a talk to a child protection organization, and always awful to hear from frontline experts. When interviewed, the boys talk about watching porn. A mass dereliction of duty by governments, allowing boys free and unfettered access to hardcore porn.
Okay, so here's the thing. Watching porn as a child is already illegal. The only way that you can stop children from finding porn is by being a better parent and engaging in better ways of stopping them from searching for it. Putting in parental controls on their internet so that they cannot find pornography. It's doable. It's a thing you can manage. You don't need the government stepping in and stopping the porn industry as a whole, especially considering that a lot of porn in general is already illegal to shoot in the United States.
Dr. Gail Dines. Misogyny is not something created out of thin air.
It's not. I agree.
To be caught, much like a cold, that drives those infected to commit horrendous acts of violence. It is an ideology produced and disseminated by social and cultural institutions that work seamlessly together to create a social reality that normalizes, legitimizes, and glorifies violence against women. A follower sent me this screenshot from Reddit where men were congregating to ask for leaked nudes / revenge porn of Ashley Babbitt, one of the Capitol rioters who was killed by police on January 6th.
And that is also disgusting. But I don't know how many times I have to point out that society being farked does not mean that you need to take away an industry that largely allows many people in that society to survive, that allows them to live, that allows them to get a paycheck and keep going on with their lives. People who might not be able to afford their university, people who might not be able to afford their jobs, people who might, not their jobs, their homes, blah. Starting to get sleepy. Sorry. If I'm slow on this episode, that's why, and I apologize. But people who have not been able to afford living, but find themselves in the porn industry and are suddenly able to afford material things to make their life better. Places to live, places to sleep, things they can eat. Removing those options away from people will cause infinitely more harm than good. Again, in the United States, porn is already illegal for minors. Shooting of porn, in a lot of cases, is also considered illegal because of a lot of pre-existing pornography laws. Well, specifically, laws about prostitution. But I'll get into that in another episode, I'm sure. This is a systemic issue, but that systemic issue is not going to be solved by just ripping out places that do, in some cases, exploit people, but do also, in some cases, empower people. It's not going to make the world a better place. And again, taking victims and using them as lightning rods is not going to help. If anything, you may need to search for reform in the porn industry. That could be a useful thing to fight for.
One user offers a video where a breast was exposed as her corpse was being rushed out. In 2019, Dr. Priyanka...
And again, that's gross as shit, and should definitely be condemned at any point in time.
Reddy was kidnapped, essayed, and set on fire by a gang of men who filmed every moment of her agonizing death. The video of her rape and murder was uploaded to Xvideos, where it was monetized, and trended at #1 for days.
Alright, and we agreed that that's disgusting. And the answer to that is to regulate the porn industry. The answer to that is not removing it. The answer to that is to figure out what is causing that problem within the industry and to engage in regulating that industry so that things like actual rape and actual murder cannot be monetized, cannot be consumed by the general public. Largely, there was something that happened recently with Pornhub. I believe it was about 6 months ago, but correct me if I'm wrong, where a huge amount of videos were removed from the platform. Basically, any video where they could not determine that the person engaging in the video had enthusiastic consent for the video or enthusiastic consent for it to be on the platform was removed. As a result, there are certain porn actresses that cannot be consumed on Pornhub anymore. Because again, the consent for their material to be on the website was not there. That's one small thing that can be done, and there's certainly more things that can be done, like making sure that stuff like what happened on Xvideos cannot happen again. But the answer, as I said, is regulation.
With over 8 million searches. And back to our friend Billy. Doesn't matter who you are, what your life is, your situation, who you surround yourself with, how strong you are, how smart you are, she says. You can always be taken advantage of. That's a big problem in the world of domestic abuse or statutory rape. Girls that were very confident and strong-willed, finding themselves in situations where they're like, oh my God, I'm the victim here? And it's so embarrassing and humiliating and demoralizing to be in that position of thinking you know so much and then you realize, I'm being abused right now. I'm not going to read these out, but you can pause and read some of the comments from men on Reddit after viewing Billy's photo shoot. If I give up...
Again, misogynists exist. Thirsty people exist. By taking away a place where people can show off themselves, you are not going to remove the misogyny. You are only going to get rid of an outlet. That doesn't solve the problem.
Give up now. Younger generations of women will be told that porn is good for them, and they will believe it. Andrea Dworkin. So,
if I give up now, younger and younger generations will believe that their bodies should be exploited for labor. And they'll believe it. Same thing. Same argument. I'm sorry. Sex work is work. At the end of the day, it is using your body for the profit of somebody else so that you can earn a paycheck. That is what it is, from top to bottom. And if you do not believe that your body is exploited by work, please find me somebody who's worked in a demanding warehouse job or a fast food job or a restaurant position who doesn't feel like their body is being exploited on some level after the 15 or 20 or 25-year mark.
Sorry this video is a bit of a bummer, and I tried to talk about quite a lot of things, but I think they're all important, and somehow they all seemed related in my head, so I hope it made sense.
It made sense. You want to remove an industry that has exploitation issues within it, as every industry does, that need to be tackled and need to be reformed and need to be handled. But you want to do it by destroying the industry instead of regulating the industry. We agree, workers should not be exploited. But you don't get to look at a single sect of workers and say, aha! These workers are exploited in a different way, therefore, this is infinitely more important to me. I'm kidding, you actually can totally say that. This is how we got rid of child labor issues. We still have child labor issues. I guess, more importantly, there's a lot of information that's left out of here. This is largely effectively a conservative argument against pornography, but it's using progressive language. And I don't agree with the language that's being used. And I understand that I'm tired at this point that I'm making this video, so I'm not formulating my words as well as I would. I would normally be able to do something like this in about 30 minutes, and we're at the 47-minute mark because I'm definitely not on my best on this particular video. But hopefully my arguments were somewhat concise. Hopefully they were intelligible. I don't agree with the idea that you should just prevent people from being able to sexualize themselves. There are some people who find that empowering, and if anybody should be allowed to sexualize themselves, it's themselves. If you're going to bring up a problem with the porn industry, and then bring up OnlyFans, where people largely self-regulate their stuff, that's not going to work out as well. It's like criticizing mass media, TV, entertainment industries, but bringing up YouTube as your example. Yes, we are still the entertainment industry, in a completely different and far more atomized way, that operates under very different rules, but some of the same structures. But, I don't know. I don't agree with the video that was presented here. I don't think that pornography is in and of itself a bad thing in any way, shape, or form. I think that there are issues within it that need to be dealt with. I guess in any way, shape, or form is not necessarily the correct way of saying it. I believe that there are things that need to be dealt with within the porn industry. Things that need to be regulated. But I do not believe that the industry needs to be destroyed. Anyways, with all that said, please let me know what you thought of the video in the comment section below. As always, everyone, insert in the video tagline here.